She woke up choking on air. Charlotte bolted upright in bed, her heart slamming so hard it hurt, her fingers digging into the sheets as if they were the only thing tethering her to the present. The room was dark, silent, except for the shallow, panicked sound of her own breathing. For a split second, she thought it was another nightmare, another shapeless fear left behind by the accident. Then it hit her, not as fragments, not as confusion, as everything. The locked bedroom door, the way the handle wouldn't turn, the low laughter that wasn't meant for her ears, her husband's voice, amused and careless, her best friend's voice, intimate and cruel. She's too trusting. She never suspects a thing. 3 years, and she still thinks I'm loyal. Before we begin, if you enjoy emotional, dramatic billionaire stories filled with twists and unforgettable characters, please like this video, leave a comment, and subscribe for more stories like this. Your support helps this channel grow and brings you even better stories. Charlotte gasped, clutching her head as memories poured back with brutal clarity. The champagne bottle in her hand, the joy bubbling in her chest, the words she had practiced in the mirror. I'm pregnant. The future she thought she was about to give him. And then the other memory, sharp enough to slice her open. I told her the baby was my boyfriend's. Her best friend had laughed. She believed me. She always believes me. Charlotte slid off the bed, her legs barely holding her weight as she sank to the cold floor. Her stomach twisted violently, grief and rage colliding in a way that made her dizzy. The miscarriage, the hospital, the blank space where the truth had been hiding. She hadn't been repulsed by her husband's touch because she was broken. She had been repulsed because her body remembered before her mind did. Tears streamed down her face, silent and relentless. She pressed her fist to her mouth, stifling a sob as the final pieces locked into place. The accident hadn't erased her life. It had delayed the reckoning. Slowly, Charlotte got to her feet. Her reflection in the mirror looked different now, not fragile, not confused. Her eyes were clear, awake, dangerous in their calm. So that's what you did to me, she whispered to her reflection. That's what you thought you got away with. Behind her, the bedroom door creaked open. Her husband stepped in, already dressed, his expression carefully arranged into concern. Charlotte, he said softly, why are you up? Are you feeling okay? She turned to face him, and for the first time since the accident, she truly saw him. The mask, the calculation behind his eyes, the impatience he tried to hide whenever she pulled away. I couldn't sleep, she said evenly. He crossed the room, reaching out instinctively, possession in every step. Charlotte didn't flinch, but she didn't lean into him either. She watched his hand hover, uncertain, before he let it drop. You should have woken me, he said, his tone gentle, rehearsed. You know I worry about you. She almost laughed. Do you? She asked quietly. He frowned. Of course I do. You've been through so much. Yes, she thought, because of you. I just needed some air, she said, brushing past him. Her skin crawled when he tried to touch her arm again, and she stepped away before he could make contact. His jaw tightened, just for a second. You've been distant lately, he said. Cold. The doctor said mood changes were normal, but you don't like it, Charlotte finished for him, her voice calm, detached. You don't like that I don't reach for you anymore. That's not what I said, he replied, quickly, but his eyes darkened. I just miss my wife. Your wife. The woman who trusted you. The woman you betrayed in her own bed. I'm tired, Charlotte said. I think I'll go for a walk later, clear my head. At this hour? He asked, suspicion creeping in. I can come with you. No, she said, sharper than she intended. He studied her, something wary flickering across his face. Charlotte, you're still recovering. You shouldn't be alone too much. She met his gaze steadily. I think I should. After he left the room, she didn't wait for sleep. She dressed quietly and slipped out of the house before the sun rose, the familiar halls feeling foreign, in a way they never had before. Every step echoed with the truth she now carried. She didn't know where she was going at first. Her feet moved on instinct, leading her through streets she barely remembered until she stopped in front of A small bar, the same one she had stumbled into on the night her life fell apart. The door was closed, the windows dark. Charlotte rested her palm against the glass, her breath fogging it slightly. "That's where you found me," she murmured, "when I didn't even know I needed saving." Ethan. His face surfaced in her mind, not as the billionaire everyone feared, but as the man who had offered her water instead of another drink. The man who had listened, the man who had stepped back when he learned she was married, the man who had told her the truth, without even meaning to. Her chest tightened painfully. "I trusted the wrong people," she said softly, "and somehow, the right one." Behind her, the city began to wake. Cars passed. Life moved on. Charlotte straightened, resolve settling into her bones. She wasn't confused anymore. She wasn't broken. And very soon, her husband and her best friend were going to learn exactly what happened when a woman stopped forgetting. Charlotte didn't confront anyone the next morning. Instead, she smiled. She poured coffee like everything was normal, nodded when her husband spoke, laughed softly at the things he said that were meant to sound loving. She watched him closely now, how his eyes tracked her movements, how his patience thinned when she didn't respond the way she used to. Every gesture felt rehearsed, like he was following a script he'd memorized years ago. "Are you sure you don't want to stay home today?" he asked as she picked up her bag. "You've only just recovered." "I need to feel useful," she replied lightly. "I'm going to stop by the office, then maybe see Ava later." At the mention of her best friend's name, something flickered in his gaze. He recovered quickly, but Charlotte saw it. "Of course," he said. "Tell her I said hello." She turned away, before he could see the expression on her face. Ava arrived that afternoon, breezing into the house with the same familiarity she always had, dropping her bag on the couch like it belonged there. Her smile was warm, affectionate, practiced to perfection. "There's my miracle girl," Ava said, wrapping Charlotte in a hug. "How are you really?" Charlotte stiffened for just a heartbeat before hugging her back. The scent of Ava's perfume, once comforting, now made her stomach churn. "I'm better," Charlotte said. "Some days feel clearer than others." Ava's eyes lit up with interest. "Clearer how?" Charlotte tilted her head, studying her. "Like memories are rearranging themselves." Ava laughed lightly. "That's normal after trauma. Doctors told you that, right?" "They did," Charlotte said. She paused, then added casually, "Sometimes I even remember things I wish I didn't." Ava's smile faltered, just slightly. "Like what?" she asked. Charlotte walked toward the kitchen, forcing herself to stay calm, to move naturally. "Like the night of the accident," she said over her shoulder. "I remember leaving the house upset. I remember hearing voices." Ava followed her, pulse quickening. "You've mentioned that before." "Yes," Charlotte said, turning slowly. "But today I remembered something else." Ava swallowed. "What?" Charlotte met her eyes, her voice almost thoughtful. "I remembered you telling me your son's father lived abroad." Ava laughed too quickly. "He does." "That's what I thought," Charlotte said. "It's just strange. Last night I dreamed you said something different. You said, 'His father was closer than I believed.'" The room went very still. Ava stared at her for a second too long before recovering. "Dreams can be confusing, especially after everything you've been through." Charlotte nodded. "That's what I told myself." She turned back to the counter, pretending to be interested in nothing more than pouring tea, while her mind raced. Ava hadn't denied it. She hadn't laughed it off. She had panicked. Later, when Ava went to the bathroom, Charlotte slipped quietly into the study. Her hands trembled as she opened the drawer she hadn't touched since before the accident. Inside were old phones, documents, things she'd once trusted her husband to keep safe. She turned on her old phone. Message threads loaded slowly. Ava, her husband, deleted conversations, gaps in timelines, calls that lined up too perfectly with the nights her husband had claimed to be away on business. Charlotte sank into the chair, the air leaving her lungs. "Oh my God," she whispered. When Ava returned, Charlotte had already locked the phone away. She smiled again, softer this time. "You look tired," Ava said. You should rest. I will, Charlotte replied. Thank you for coming. It means a lot. Ava hugged her tightly. Always. You know I'd do anything for you. Charlotte closed her eyes. I know, she thought. I know exactly how far you went. That night, Charlotte lay in bed beside her husband, staring at the ceiling as he slept. His arm rested heavy around her waist, claiming her even in unconsciousness. She waited until his breathing deepened, then gently lifted his hand away and slipped out of bed. In the study again, she photographed everything. Emails, transfers, legal drafts tied to her father's company. The betrayal wasn't just emotional. It was calculated. You married me to get to my family, she whispered. You used my love like a key. The next day, she ran into Ethan, not by accident. She'd gone to the same grocery store, unsure of what she hoped for: clarity, comfort, or courage. He was in the produce aisle, sleeves rolled up, hair slightly messy, reading labels with the same focus he gave boardrooms. He looked up and froze when he saw her. Charlotte, he said quietly, are you okay? She nodded, though her eyes burned. I remember, she said without preamble. His expression shifted instantly, concern sharpening. Everything? Yes. He exhaled slowly, like he'd been holding his breath for weeks. I'm sorry, he said. I never wanted you to. I know, she interrupted. That's the problem. They stood there in silence, the hum of the store fading around them. I can't talk to you right now, she said finally. Not because I don't want to, because I need to do something first. He studied her face, then nodded. Whatever you need. I'll be here. That night, Charlotte waited until dinner was over, until the house was quiet, until her husband thought he was safe. She stood in the doorway of the living room, her voice steady as stone. I remember everything. He looked up, startled. What do you mean? I remember the night I planned to tell you I was pregnant, she said. I remember the door. I remember the voices. I remember her. Color drained from his face. You were never my husband, Charlotte continued softly. You were my mistake. For a moment, her husband said nothing. Then he laughed. It was a short, disbelieving sound, sharp enough to scrape against her nerves. He stood slowly, straightening his jacket, as if this were a business meeting instead of the collapse of his carefully built life. You're confused, he said. That accident did more damage than the doctors thought. Charlotte didn't raise her voice. She didn't cry. She simply reached into her bag and placed her phone on the table, between them. I remember the champagne, she said. I remember practicing the words in the mirror. I remember being so happy I could barely breathe. Her eyes never left his. And I remember hearing you say the baby would complicate things. His smile vanished. She swiped the screen. Photos of messages appeared, timestamps, names, transfers, proof layered on proof. She watched his face change as realization crept in, slow and inevitable. You knew, he said hoarsely. I know, she corrected, past and present. He lunged for the phone. She stepped back. Don't, she said, steel in her tone. You don't own this anymore. You don't own me. His composure cracked. You're overreacting. It was an arrangement. You knew what this marriage was. No, Charlotte replied. You knew. I trusted. He scoffed, anger flashing. You would have had nothing without me. She smiled then, not in joy, but in clarity. That's where you're wrong. The next weeks moved quickly. Lawyers spoke where emotions no longer needed to. Her parents stood beside her without hesitation, their shock turning into fierce protection. Documents were filed, accounts were frozen. The truth, once buried, was exposed with quiet efficiency. Ava tried to call, then text, then show up. Charlotte didn't answer. When the divorce was finalized, she felt something unexpected, not triumph, not relief, but lightness. Like a door had closed behind her, and for the first time, it hadn't slammed. She focused on herself. Work became her refuge. She stepped into her father's company with confidence, earning respect not because of her name, but because of her mind. Long days turned into nights filled with purpose instead of pain. Ethan stayed away, not out of indifference, but respect. When they finally met again, it was in daylight, in a quiet cafe where nothing felt rushed. He didn't reach for her, didn't make promises. "I didn't want to be another man pulling you somewhere," he said. "You deserve space to choose." Charlotte studied him, the lines of his face softer than she remembered, familiar in a way that steadied her heart. "I did choose," she said, his brows knit together. "Me?" "Myself," she answered gently. "First." Weeks passed, then months. They talked, laughed, disagreed. He admitted his flaws, his impatience, his tendency to control situations instead of trusting people. She told him her fears, of losing herself again, of loving blindly. One evening, as the city lights shimmered below her balcony, Charlotte took his hand. "I remember falling for you before I even knew who you were," she said. "And I remember choosing you again when I remembered everything." He swallowed. "I don't want to be your escape." "You're not," she replied. "You're my choice." She leaned in first. This time, nothing was stolen. Nothing was hidden. Love wasn't a surprise anymore. It was a decision, made with open eyes, a steady heart, and a future that finally belonged to her. And for the first time in a very long while, Charlotte smiled without fear.